is everyone affording life? Real question. How are you guys doing it? Because my daycare costs the same as our mortgage, which is just wild to me. And I had a crash out earlier today just about how like really expensive everything really truly is. And I just don't know how you guys are doing it. So I have a corporate 6-figure job. I should be able to afford life. We're not doing anything wrong. Just life is expensive.
A bigger paycheck can still buy less independence. The real story is the widening gap between what work pays and ordinary life costs.
This is what I'm struggling with in America right now in my 20s. Why is everything so expensive? Why am I making more money waitressing than I would make using my college degree? I barely have a life. I have 2 days off and I work Wednesday to Sunday, doubling just to pay my bills. At 22 years old, all of my bills are in my name. I have no help. How are y'all affording housing? In Myrtle Beach, a 1-bedroom apartment is $1,500. How are y'all getting insurance, going to the doctor, getting medicine? And then some of us are trying to be TikTok influencers. Who knows where that's going to get me? Me and my boyfriend are saving, but we barely see each other during the week, and it feels like we're working our out for nothing. Do we need to move somewhere for a better job opportunity that we don't know about? Do any of y'all really know what you want to do with your life right now? It is so scary being in America right now.
How much you guys think I make at McDonald's? 2 weeks. I'm a manager. Don't let my shirt fool you. Oh, we don't make shit. Me and my husband were both managers at McDonald's. And for 2 weeks, I only bring home, where's it at? $1,100. That's 2 weeks. So as manager, in a full month of working, I bring in, what, 2,400? People are always like, why are you guys so broke? Just our rent alone is $1,500. Our car payment is $500. My car insurance, because I was an irresponsible addict for so long, that's like $400 a month. We live in Phoenix, Arizona. My electric bill is like $200 a month. If you guys just add up like our regular bills, we only have like a $300-400 median after that, and we still have to grocery shop, gas, have money to live. We don't, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. My husband makes a little bit more money than I do, a tiny bit, not much.
I am a flight attendant.
How much were you making as a flight attendant when you started versus now?
When I left my old airline, I was at about 70,000.
Okay.
This time around, as a new hire, I am making about 27,000 before taxes.
What's the
Not as
reason for
glamorous as
that?
people
Well,
think
that's
it is.
crazy.
New hire pay is one price, and then each year it goes up until you max out at like 12 or 13 years, depending on which
Gotcha.
airline you work for. The company that I'm with hasn't really given a pay raise for a very long time, so we've been in contract negotiations for that.
How do you feel about, going from 70 down to 20?
Depending on the airline that you work for really determines how much you can work. When I was with another airline, I could work a lot more and make a lot more. With my current airline, I'm hindered by a lot of legalities and stuff, so it kind of hinders me from working as much as I would like to.
I've heard that flight attendants don't get paid until the door closes. Is that
We do not
right?
get paid until the door closes and the brake releases. So when we are boarding, we are not being paid. When we sign into work, we are not being paid. When we are sitting in the airports between our flights, we are not being paid. It's not all about the money. Of course, we don't do it for the money. If it would help a lot. But yeah, a lot of people do it for the love of people, the love of traveling, and yeah.
If you kids can't live comfortably on $20 an hour, you have to be overspending. We got to break this down very quickly to give people perspective into the Gen Z's lives. If you make $20 an hour, that is $40,000 a year. After taxes, that is $2,750. The average 1-bedroom apartment and utility is going to run you $2,000. You cannot do that making $20 an hour, so you're going to have to rent with a roommate for about $1,200, and that's being conservative. $500 a month for groceries, which is less than $150 a week. $300 for a student loan payment, which is below average. $300 for a car payment, which is below average. average, $150 for car insurance, $150 for gas, $100 for personal care, $50 for a cell phone is $2,750. That is paycheck to paycheck, leaving you with nothing for savings, investments, the big one, health insurance, because I'm assuming they're under 26 years old, and zero fun. Now, if they were to make $30 an hour, that's $60,000 a year. That's $3,900 after taxes. Maybe they decide to get their own place for $2,000 and everything else stays the same. They're left with $350 a month, which is essentially still paycheck to paycheck. This is the cost of living in America.
Gross pay is not spendable income. Taxes, unpaid time, insurance, and basic bills decide what a wage can actually support.
I just got paid, so let's open up my paycheck and see how much it is. This is my second paycheck for my new library job. This one should be a full paycheck for a full 2 weeks. The last one was not, so I'm curious to see how much this is. It was supposed to be direct deposit, but there was something like messed up with it. It's a paper check again, going old school. I think my guess is gonna be around maybe like $540, $520. Last check was pretty close to a full check, but I think it was missing 1 or 2 days. It is $549.48. So I was almost correct, $549. That means every 2 weeks I will make $550. So I will make $1,100 a month. That is pretty good for part-time. It's only 18 hours a week, but I have 2 like 30-minute breaks that I'm unpaid for. So I only work 17 hours a week, so that's 34 hours for $550. That's not bad. My hourly wage is $17.57 for anybody that's curious. The minimum wage in Connecticut I think just went up to $16 possibly, or $16.50, so I don't make quite much more than minimum wage. So even though I'm making less money per paycheck at this job than I was my retail job, I'm making more per hour, and also the work is nowhere near as like stressful or busy. Like, this job is so chill that I'm absolutely fine only making $1,100 a month at this job. That is amazing for like the work that I'm actually doing. It still shocks me and I'm still trying to get used to the change of pace. So this is what a normal paycheck is going to be. Hopefully from now on there'll be direct deposit and I will be back to budget this with you and see how much we can put towards my student loans.
Okay, so I just got off work and I did the calculation today from my job. Let me just cover up my uniform a little bit more of how much money I made per hour. Today, I made $15 an hour. I have been with this company for 8 years. I've been flying as a flight attendant for 6 years, and I made $15. Now, mind you, if I lived in the middle of the United States, okay, sure, $15 an hour, fine. I live in Seattle. All of our bases are on the West Coast. $15 an hour. I could go work as a receptionist and work whatever schedule I wanted as a receptionist at a hotel or something and get paid like $23, $24 entry level.
Not to be in y'all's business or anything, but how much money do y'all make an hour? How much money do y'all make? I just seen this video of this girl. She was like, in this type of economy, there's no way I'm showing up to nobody's job to make less than $15 an hour on a lower scale. That's like on a terrible scale. And one thing about life, yes, people have to be more grateful. We have to do a better job at being thankful for what we already have. But let me tell you something. You know how brutal that is? Nobody wants to show up to a job and work like 40 hours. And half the time, if you're making that type of money, you have to work well over 40 hours for it to even make sense. Because if not, the whole check is going to taxes. And it's crazy because when you don't raise minimum wage, but you have jobs that'll pay you $4 or $5 over the minimum wage when the minimum wage is already like sinking. When you think of an ocean, like the minimum wage is already underwater. You're dead at that point. But to pay somebody like $4 or $5 right over the minimum wage just so that they can be able to say they don't make minimum wage is crazy work in this type of economy. Everybody can't make 6 figures a year. Everybody can't make over 100, 2, 3, 4, 500,000 making that type of money with these types of jobs. But what I do know is to not be able to make the bare minimum, you ain't seeing no extra money out your check. And matter of fact, the only way that you can even see some of your check is if you don't pay no bills. You would have to live off of somebody else.
These workers earn different amounts, but the pressure repeats. Steady work no longer guarantees room for savings, emergencies, or rest.
Is everyone affording life? Real question. How are you guys doing it? Because my daycare costs the same as our mortgage, which is just wild to me. And I had a crash out earlier today just about how like really expensive everything really truly is. And I just don't know how you guys are doing it. So I have a corporate 6-figure job. I should be able to afford life. We're not doing anything wrong. Just life is expensive. And I'm the breadwinner in my household. There's this like constant stress like hanging over my head all the time of you got to make more to provide for your family, especially in this day and age. And it's wild because at the same time I'm stuck in these corporate handcuffs and I am going through burnout. I don't want to continue doing this. I have like the mental load, hanging over my head. I'm trying to be a good mom, let alone like a good wife, daughter, sister, friend, which I'm failing at all of those things, I feel like.
Quick question to any Americans, between the ages of 35 to 45, especially if you have kids, but even if you don't, how are we affording things? How are you affording anything? And houses and cars, that's not really what I'm talking, but yeah, that. I mean more like, how are you affording gas and groceries and healthcare and utilities and all the other 900 subscriptions that are required to live these days? How are you doing that? I'm assuming you all also are not you're not taking any vacations, and you've like us have just cut out the coffee and the Target shopping and the activities for the kids as much as you can. You've taken away. You've gotten rid of pretty much anything fun. Like you're not having any more fun. Assuming you're also doing that, how are you living? If you have any tips or tricks, just go ahead and drop them in the comments.
You know what? They keep saying that we're in the age of disclosure, and I think that they're right. But I think we also need to start disclosing something else, like on a personal level. Like I think more people, especially Americans, need to start disclosing how much they are struggling financially. Like I made a video yesterday talking about how this is my first job that I've been able to land since November of last year. I'm not full time. That job is not full time. It is $19 an hour. It is 32 hours a week. My lease renewal, I've got my third notification about my lease renewal. I cannot afford to renew this lease, and I also can't afford to move, because if you move, what do you got to do? Deposit, admin fee, application fee, paying for the moving truck, taking time off of work, all this extra stuff that you have to pay for. I cannot afford to do either one. And a lot of people are in this position right now. A lot of people cannot find a job. And it's not because there's just a natural scarcity when it comes to job. It is a manufactured scarcity. They're not hiring anyone. They're cutting 90% of their workforce and getting the remaining 10% to do the work of the other 90%. While not increasing their pay. The cost of everything is going up, but everybody keeps reporting record profits. Nobody can afford to pay their workers a livable wage, but everybody has record profits. But you know who does get paid? The shareholders, who do absolutely nothing for the company. This is the state of the economy right now. Like, this is a reality. This is real. And this is where we all are. It's a lot more people that are just too embarrassed to say. You should never be embarrassed about what this system has done to you. Because I'm not.
Now compare those paychecks with housing. Rent is not just higher. Qualifying, deposits, utilities, and renewals raise the entry price.
Can someone explain to me why renting is so hard in Orange County? I have 4 adults. My brother, his fiance, and me and my fiance. And we're all just trying to look at a house to rent together. We're looking at $5,000 a month. Our credit score is amazing. Mine is 780. My brother's is 820. Like, that's phenomenal. And we're getting denied at every place that we apply because they're saying that there's just stronger applications. I don't know what to do. I don't know why it's so hard. Don't want to live in like the Irvine company because we want like a garage and we want a backyard. And we've been applying for 2 months. Like, it's It's not like we're dragging our feet. We all work corporate jobs. Like, I'm trying to point out, like, any kind of yellow flag that I see. I have a dog. But that shouldn't stop me from, like, finding a place to live. I feel the crash out. Like, I'm gonna crash out.
Rent in Dallas is getting out of hand. I've never seen anything like this. I live in Uptown, and I've only lived in my apartment for less than a year now, but my 60-day period is coming up where I need to give notice or resign. So they sent me the renewal letter, and they want to raise my rent from $1,800 a month to $2,200 a month, which is over 20% of an increase, and I feel like that's insane. Of the 5 or 6 apartments I've lived at in Dallas before, they've really never raised it more than like $100 usually, and the most I think was $200, and I got them to meet me in the middle for about $100 of an increase, which is way less on a percentage basis. And this time they want 20% more, really more than 20%. So I emailed them and I was like, hey, this is out of control. Like, is there anything you can do to work with me? I offered like a more reasonable 5% increase, which is normal, like inflation. And they were like, no, sorry, we're not willing to budge. You can try to email us again right before the 60 days, which is next week, and we'll see if market rates have come down. But if not, that's the renewal price. And I'm like, number one, I've always been able to negotiate, and number two, it's just an astronomical increase.
This is how much I pay in rent for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment in Southern California. We just moved into this place. It's pretty nice. It's like 1,150 square feet. It's pretty big. I'm like an hour outside of LA. So we were living in Chino Hills before. We moved out of there, upgraded to the 2-bedroom because we have a baby. So for this place, I'm paying $29.30 a month. I've got utilities, I've got like internet fees and stuff. So all in all, basically $2,900 just rent. Everything together, I'm probably at like $3,400 after like electricity, trash, water, sewer, all of it. But it is not cheap to live here in Southern California.
Now, what I'm about to say may piss a lot of landlords off, but I don't really care at all. But I'm going to read to y'all the qualifications that this person wants for this house. And it ain't an amazing ass house. We're not talking about anything super expensive. The rent, like I said, is $16.95, $40 application fee per adult. They want you to make 3.5 times the rent. Standard for whatever reason is 3 times the rent. When majority of Americans don't even make 3 times a $1,600 a month rent. I don't know where people just get up and be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna make this a national standard that people have to make 3 times the rent amount. Majority of people can afford 2 times the rent on a specific basic home like this. But this person is going even further. They don't want you to have 3 times the rent. They want you to have 3.5 times the rent. They want the last 2 years of your W-2s, the last 3 months of your check stub, driver's license or ID, social security card. They want you to make 2 months worth of rent as your security deposit before you even move in, and you have to have a credit score of at least a 670. I'm trying to tell you off the bat that disqualifies so many people from being able to be in a home that is decent. Let's add that up, why don't we? Off the rip, you have to pay first month's rent, $16.95. You have to pay $40 application fee per adult, and let's just say the standard adult is 2 adults, right? You have to pay, if you have a pet, which majority of people in Houston do have pets, dogs, it's a $250 non-refundable fee per pet. So let's just say you have a pet. We're going to add that up. And then you have to make 2 months of the rent to equal the amount of the security deposit. So that's $16.95 times 2. All right. And on top of that, we're not even talking about your utilities and all the things that you have set up. They want you to have rental insurance before you move in. Standard rental insurance is probably about $25 a month. Let's just say that. Before you can even move into this house, sitting in a savings account somewhere or just idle money, you already got to come off of this amount of money.
Good credit and full-time jobs may still lose to stronger applications. Affordability now includes proving you can enter the market at all.
Where I live, the average rent for a 1-bedroom apartment is about $1,700. If you were to make enough money to where that $1,700 apartment was 25% of your pay so that you are not house poor, I think the math came out to be that you needed to make like $6,800 a month. And if you follow Dave Ramsey, he says 25% of your take-home pay. So we're not even gonna get that nitty-gritty about it. But $6,800 a month works out to be $42 an hour. So for a single person to afford to live in a one-bedroom apartment where I live, and no, it is not in the city of Seattle, you would need to be making $42 an hour to be able to afford that rent comfortably. I don't understand why this is such a hard concept for people to understand, that wages are not livable. Because I'm thinking about how my kids are going to be able to move out in 20 years. How are they going to be able to afford an apartment? If as of right now, a single person would need to make $42 an hour to afford to live solo, minimum wage is $17 an hour. Like, this just isn't working. Maybe it's just Washington, but there isn't anything about our lifestyle that we can cut out to make this any cheaper. I can't move further to the country because they're just as expensive. I'm driving a 16-year-old car. Our mortgage has a 2.9 interest rate from 2021. We don't have PMI. It's a fixer-upper. This lifestyle should not be hard to afford, and I know I'm not the only one. So if you made it this far, I would love to hear what your ideas are and suggestions for us to fix this.
Why are apartments $1,800 a month? A one-bedroom apartment is almost $2,000 a month. My mom owned a condo for years. I remember growing up, she used to rent out her condo. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom on a lake. Boat access for $1,100 a month. $1,100 a month. That's dirt. That's pocket change in this economy. Like, I can't. No wonder. People aren't having kids. Like, people aren't getting married. It's like the most single generation ever because we can't afford anything. We can't afford to even, like, be in a relationship because we're still living at home with our parents because we can't afford to live on our own. And if we do, we're not saving, we're going in debt, where we don't have any extra money for anything. It's like you spend all your money towards your living expenses and then you don't have any money to do anything. Like, what is happening?
So let me get this straight. We can't afford rent because rent prices are increasing so much to push us out to buy homes. But the interest rate is so high, you can't buy a home. And also you're not going to get funded for a home because of your debt to income ratio. So then what? And then homelessness or houselessness is becoming criminalized. So then what? I don't understand. To be honest, I really like the idea of building a commune, aside from like the culty aspect of it, but essentially buying land, driving vans, building a tiny houses on it, and everyone shares.
Moving home or sharing space is not one story. For some, it is survival. For others, a deliberate strategy to rebuild.
We just got everything out from the apartment. I can't believe I'm actually moving back with my parents at the age of 34. Sometimes you have to take a step backwards just to move forward, so that's what I'm doing. And I'm definitely going to miss having my own space for sure. Nothing beats, that's the best feeling in the world, just having your own space. But the only thing I can do from here is just move forward and just try to improve and better myself. I am very grateful to have my family to fall back on during times like these. So I'm very grateful for that. And we'll see where the next journey takes us.
Whenever I post that I live with my mom, I always get hate comments from people being like, you're 32 and you live with your mom? Yeah. And it's the best decision I've ever made. Like, what, you want me to spend $3,000 to go live with a random roommate that I'm worried is going to eat my groceries and not wash her dishes? I think I've cracked the code. Living with your mom's the best.
I moved back in with my parents at the age of 32, and I've been here for the last 2 years. And I just want to be real about what that felt like, because it's not easy. I'd been a business owner, I had employees, I had a whole identity built around being the woman who was building something. And then one day, I'm back in my parents' house trying to figure out how to rebuild my life without losing my mind in the process. And the ego hit from that was very real. But here's what I decided. I could do one of two things, and I could scramble to keep up appearances, go get an apartment, act like everything was fine. I could keep spending money that I didn't have just to feel like I was still that girl, or I could be real with myself and make the smart move, even if it was the humble one. And I chose real.
Hi, my name's Scott Rogers. I recently got evicted from the place I'd been living for over a decade. I'm working a job that's roughly minimum wage for about 40 hours a week. For the duration I've been staying in an extended stay hotel, I don't know how much longer that'll be possible. Car is having a lot of transmission issues, a lot of internal issues. I'm not even sure I can't afford to take it to a mechanic. It's broke down a couple of times over the last week. Thank God it restarted. I'm making decisions between buying food and finding alternative, when the car breaks down, finding alternative ways to work. Every time I don't know how long I'll be able to keep this up.
Location, household size, debt, and support differ. But these stories ask the same question. What does independent life now require?
I need to have a vent session for a second about the state of affairs in this country. So I have two adult children. One is 18 going on 19 and the other one is 21. My 18-year-old is working currently as an HVAC apprentice and working on getting certified, but he's making $16 an hour, which I live in a small to mid-sized Missouri town, so that's pretty typical around here. Wages are, low compared to a lot of places, but so is the cost of living. But he would also not like to be living at home with mom forever. He's more of an independent, autonomous person, so apartment living is not for him at all. He wants a place where he can have his truck and his dirt bikes and be able to work on motors and have the freedom to do what he wants with the place and also be able to have all of his stuff. And at this point, honestly, renting a house would cost more than a mortgage payment anyway, but he's been looking for houses and just trying to figure out what he can afford and what he can do. And he found this place that was only $125,000, which is dirt cheap around here. That just doesn't exist anymore, but it had no basement. It was on a slab foundation, I think, and probably needed some work, which he is naturally talented at that stuff. He works in HVAC. He's very mechanically inclined. He can do this stuff. So he's not afraid of a fixer-upper. Found out that the main reason it was priced so cheap is because it was in a flood zone. So it was a no anyway. But keep in mind, $125,000 house in this economy. And when we looked up to see if he did a 5% down payment on this thing with, your insurance and PMI and taxes and everything, his payment would still be $1,100 a month for a cheap piece of crap house. And just the look of absolute dread on his face when he realized how completely unaffordable and unattainable it is for him to be able to buy a house and live on his own. And I'm now sitting here thinking about my own situation, where my own currently hourly wage is, and considering if I was their age, if I was just starting out. So thinking about buying the same house that I live in right now at its current value, at current interest rates, with the same percent down payment that I paid for this house back in 2017. And I realized that my payment would be double what it currently is. And I, as a 40-year-old woman who has been working for 24 years of my life, could not afford this place on my own. At 40 years old, I would need a roommate in order to live in this very modest, 1,300 square foot, 1968 ranch style home. It's not a fancy house by any stretch. It's what most people would consider to be essentially a starter home by today's standards. And I could not afford it on my own on my current wages. So my question is, how the hell are we expecting these young kids to do it? For someone to start out, even in my area, in rural Missouri, they would have to make $30 an hour in order to be earning a living wage, in order to live on their own and support themselves without the help of a spouse or a roommate, just for a single person to live and make it on their own, to be able to afford a vehicle payment, vehicle insurance, a mortgage or rent payment, and all of the utilities and groceries and cell phone bills and stuff that go along with just living your life. That's no fun stuff. It's just to live. They would need to make $30 an hour.
Compare your take-home pay with housing and essentials where you live. Share the real numbers. Then like and subscribe for the next report.